yes, it is a great day around here because we have Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum joining us in studio, which is something we've been looking forward to for quite some time. Thank you for taking time out of your incredibly chaotic and hectic schedule to come over and visit with us.
I'm seeing a lot of Iowans today, but probably see as many here than I will for the rest of the day. So it's great to be on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, your next 2 weeks, just kind of give people an idea of what you've got going on here.
We have about a little over 80 town hall meetings scheduled between now and the 80. One day I think we have 9 in one day, which we start, first thing in the morning. We have, I think 7:30. And
I was going to say, what time first thing in the morning? 1 o'clock in the morning?
We have a breakfast club at 7:30 in the morning one day, and we finish up with an 8 o'clock meeting late. So we do two in the evening. 2 house parties.
How do you physically sustain this? I mean, obviously we know you did this 4 years ago and came out on top in Iowa.
It's actually easy for me, to be honest with you. I love going out and talking to people and engaging them in the issues that are important to the future of our country, and talking to people who are going to make a big difference, Iowans. I mean, I say this at the beginning of every talk. You don't realize how much influence and power you have in America today, at a time when our country needs people to step forward and say, okay, here is who we recommend. Not who the national polls do, not who the pundits do, not who's getting all the attention because they say colorful things or they have lots of money, but who we have analyzed is actually the candidate who should be president. And I always say Iowans shouldn't settle. They shouldn't settle for, okay, well, the powers that be have picked 1 or 2 or 3 people and we got to vote for them. No, you've got a whole slate of candidates there. What you did 4 years ago was you took a guy who was sitting at 3% 3 weeks out, and you made him the winner of the Iowa caucuses because over the last 2 or 3 weeks you said, well, yeah, he's not doing well in the polls, but we think he's the best guy.
He's talking about himself, just in case. He was the winner of the Iowa caucuses 4 years ago. Mitt Romney was announced the winner,
that's right,
as we all may recall.
Yes.
But you ended up being, in a recount of sorts, the winner. But it was about 2 weeks from the caucuses when you really kind of
we started. Actually,
you gained momentum.
That's right.
It's not, polls aren't speaking to that right now. So what do you do?
Yeah, look, it's obviously a different environment for me. It's a little harder this time around, in all candor, because again, the national media has tried to, and the RNC, the Republican establishment, tried to put their imprint on this process. They've limited debates. They've limited who's going to be in debates, and all in an attempt. And they were very clear about this when they did their after-action review. They didn't want guys like me who were anti-establishment, who came out and fought the establishment and tried to take on their guy. They didn't want me to have the chance to, well, have 23 debates where we could point out the flaws in the moderate candidate. And so they limited the debates, and then they limited the people at the debates. And I just think it's been in a process where I understand why people are angry, because it's more of the same that we see out of Washington, which is we're going to pick these candidates, we're going to shuffle the field the way we want, we're going to limit access to debates. We're going to, in fact, they said if you participate in a debate outside the ones we participate, we're not going to let you have any delegates. I mean, this is the kind of heavy-handedness that people are just sick of.
Yeah, but 4 years ago, you were sitting in a position similar to where you are right now. Does that give you some encouragement?
Sure does. No, I mean, like I said, we're out here. I wouldn't be doing over 80 town hall meetings if I didn't think that Iowans had the ability to step up and say, you know what, we're not going to pay attention to what goes on on the media or in the establishment, that we're going to pick the guy we think is best. And that's what I say to every Iowan. Look at the candidates, look at who has a record, look at who actually can fight for conservative things and win in Washington, look who's actually won tough states that we need to win if we're going to win an election in the general, and someone who has had experience going up against Hillary Clinton and being successful. I mean, I fought Hillary on pro-life issues, on Iran sanctions. We battled on that. We fought on welfare reform. All of these things that really nobody else has a track record. We have a track record of being a fighter and a winner, and that's, I think, makes us, frankly, the best candidate in the race.
In terms of being social conservatives, I think you and Ted Cruz are similar. What differentiates the two of you?
Marriage is probably the big thing. Ted has the position that states can do whatever they want with marriage, and that he is a 10th Amendment guy. And my response, I don't believe that's true. Abraham Lincoln said states don't have the right to do wrong. And so I would offer this to Ted, who says, states can do whatever they want, and we're going to leave it to the states. So if the states wanted to do polygamy, that would be okay. If the states wanted to do interfamily marriages, would that be okay? And the answer, of course, is no, it's not okay. Well, then why isn't it okay? Because you can't do wrong. You can't do something that's wrong, that's morally and against nature and the natural law. And if you don't have that position, which I do, then you're saying states have absolute authority to dictate anything they want on their people. That's not the country I live in. The country I live in doesn't give the state absolute power over us to do whatever they want, whether it's true or false or rational or not. And so I think he takes actually a very dangerous position, one that is not conservative at all, that the state has absolute power to do whatever they want to do. They don't. They are constrained too, and they're constrained by truth. I always say, can the state say that water is H3O? No. Why? Because water's not H3O, right? And that's why they can't say marriage is, between what you pick whatever. You can't do that because that's not what marriage is. And that's the difference between, I think, a social conservative and a libertarian who says, well, yeah, I'm for marriage, but I'll let the states do it. That's like saying, I'm pro-life, but I'm going to let the people decide. No, you can't do that because taking a human life is wrong if it's an innocent human life, and the states don't have the power to do that. But again, that's where we differ on, I think, a very fundamental issue that I don't think most people recognize. The only people in this race who have stood up and said, the position I've taken is myself and Mike Huckabee. Everybody else has taken a position, we're either not going to deal with this issue, we're going to leave it alone, or we're going to give it to the states. And giving it to the states is not the pro-family or, in fact, pro-life position.
The border is obviously a hot issue, and the way I look at it, I understand why people come here and bring their families here and leave the conditions they're in. But we've entered an age where we can't just let everybody walk into this country because bad people are walking into this country. So how do we, from a Christian perspective, I want to help people out.
It's not just bad people coming into this country. Here's what I'd say. When I say the word immigration reform, what family pops into your mind? And if you're like most Americans, the family that pops in your mind is someone who's here illegally, probably from Mexico, and they've been here for a while. And what do we do with them? Now, when I say the word tax reform, what do you think about? You think about yourself. You think about your neighbors. So why is it that when it comes to health reform or tax reform or whatever it is, you think about yourself and your neighbor? When you think about immigration, you think about someone who's broken the law. It's like saying, okay, when I talk to you about tax reform, you think of someone who cheats on their taxes. No one does that. But when it comes to immigration, we've been convinced that immigration policy isn't about what's best for America. Of course it is. Immigration policy should be what is best in the best interest of America, and particularly given the nature of immigration, 90% of the people coming into this country are workers, are wage earners. So how does immigration affect American workers? And the reality is it doesn't affect it in a positive way. We've seen 35 million people come into this country over the last 20 years. And wages over that last 20-year period of time have been flat. Lowest wage growth in history of our country. There is a correlation, ladies and gentlemen, when you bring in 10% more people into this country, most of whom are workers, most of whom are wage earners, and it holds down the price of labor. That's why you see this angst. We're not getting ahead. What's going on? That's why Trump, I think, really, lit a fuse, because people are saying, finally, someone is looking out for me. And I think that's what's missing in this debate. What is the impact of immigration on American workers? I've taken that position, and that's why I'm the only candidate in the race, maybe Trump, who wants to actually say to the people who are here, we're going to have to ask you to be removed and sent home. Why? Because it's our responsibility to protect America's interest. And so I'm actually for sending everybody home and not giving them amnesty. Senator Cruz, others have not taken that position in the past. Some are moving that way, but they haven't taken that position in the past.
All right, folks, stick around. When we come back, we're going to get a little more personal with Rick Santorum. Okay? Next on Great Thing. Special guest joining us at the desk is Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum. He is here. We do have, just so you know, Rick, we have some questions you probably haven't been asked before we finish. This is going to be the final
He's been
couple
asked
moments.
a lot of questions, Lou. This is not his first rodeo.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you haven't been asked these, because these are what some of the people, some of the caucus goers really want to know about.
Okay.
So that'll be coming up here in just a little bit. But we were having a great discussion during the commercial break, too, talking about experience and how in many situations, with the job that you're going for, that's the top job in the country.
Imagine if you're applying for the CEO of General Electric and someone puts out a request for resumes, and they say no experience required. I mean, can you imagine something like that? You'd have to have. This is not an easy job, and being the president of the United States is not like being the CEO of a company or being a lawyer. Or it's a job of being able to lead in a variety of very difficult and complicated situations, like working with the Congress, being able to work with foreign leaders, being able to communicate to the American public a vision. The internal workings of how you operate a White House and how you deal with the establishment in Washington, D.C. All of these things are important to know and have experience. So when you come to Washington, you say, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then you show up in Washington, you have all these people. This is what the establishment is, ladies and gentlemen. You have all these people who are very experienced, very smart, very knowledgeable, who come to you and say, you said that during the campaign, but that's not how it works. And let me explain to you how it really works. And then you sit down and you say, wow, that actually makes sense, because by and large it does make sense. I mean, these are not irrational opinions that people have. The problem is they're wrong. Many cases, and I can tell you personal experience with President Bush, where in some cases he had the absolute right ideas, and he was talked out of it by the folks who are the establishment there, and it was because in that particular area, I mean, Bush had some very relevant and good experiences, but in that particular area, he didn't have experience. And so when the experts tell you that, who know a lot more than you do, say you're absolutely wrong on this, what are you going to do? Well, in a lot of cases, you get the same result. And so having someone who doesn't understand where the bodies are buried or where the arguments have been made and what that can actually you can end up being a lot more establishment than you ever thought you would be when you were running for the office. And that's why experience and looking at people's records in the past actually helps. Speaking of experience, how is this campaign feel different or similar than the one you did 4 years ago? It's different because you have 753 candidates running. So I mean, it's I lost count. That's what the number is. 753. It was 54. Okay. And so look, that's the big issue. The people are just wow. There's so many good choices out there. What do we do? And that's number one. And number two, I have to go back to the thumb the national media is putting on the scales by sort of spending 80 to 90% of their time talking about a single candidate. And look, here's what it comes down to. I mean, no offense to any of you folks, but you're a business, and one of the most important thing is getting people to watch, right? And so if you got somebody that when you promo that he's coming on the show, people are going to watch. Guess who you're going to put on the show? You're going to put on the show someone that's going to draw eyeballs, because then you can get more advertising dollars. And people say, well, that's not the role of the media. Ladies and gentlemen, the media is a business, and the media is a business that's trying to make money. They're not there to do public service. If they were there, they would have run this race. They would have operated this thing completely differently. So that's been the real problem from my perspective, is that a lot of the candidates who, like myself, who were able to rise because I got a lot of media attention, even though I was running 7th out of 7 in Iowa for most of the race. We still were able to get our share of voice in the media. It's just a lot harder, and I think it's not just me, but a whole bunch of candidates who are not polling very high right now are having the same problem. Well, see, we used your name to drive that needle up here in the past couple of days, so we'll see what happens here. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully we have a good base of support here in Iowa, and we're going to continue to work that and remind people. I hear all the time, I voted for you last time. I really like you. I said, well, okay. And?
I'm the same person.
Well, here we go.
I haven't changed in 4 years. In fact, I'm a new and improved version of that. You have probably been asked 10,000 questions from this media you keep talking about. Yeah. Okay.
The evil media.
I didn't say evil.
But over the years, we've all been in the business quite a long time, 30 to be exact in some cases, plus years. And we found, after talking to different people over history, that sometimes the most basic questions, some of the simplest questions in the world, are what people can really relate to. Okay. So we're going to ask you some really simple, basic questions, and we need your honest answers. Absolutely. On these two. You'll get that. I don't know if all right. I don't know if they're good answers, but to be honest. First of all, what is your favorite color? Blue. Didn't take them long at all. Okay. What's your favorite meal or your favorite food, Rick Santorum?
You know, probably lasagna. I'm Italian.
Yeah,
Dad was an
sounds
Italian
great right now.
immigrant, so
I'm in.
Lasagna.
Favorite movie of all time?
You know, I get this question all the time, and I look. My favorite movie of all time, just because I'm a huge baseball fan, is Field of Dreams, which is
Good answer.
Dyersville, Iowa.
Okay.
But you know, I've seen that 15 times. Probably.
Sports. Favorite sport?
To play or to watch?
Both.
Okay, to play, I love playing golf.
Nice.
And to watch, I'm a huge baseball fan. So I'm in a fantasy baseball league and have been for 22 years.
Really?
Serious, and I've
commitment.
won it 7 times.
So you've won it 7
Yeah,
times?
no, I'm serious. I'm a serious fantasy baseball.
And on that same, because we have an answer
Those
there.
little things you never knew.
On that same note.
I'm actually in a book on fantasy baseball.
No way.
Because I actually drafted my fantasy team in 2012, the day I dropped out of the presidential race.
Oh, no.
We had the fantasy draft scheduled for that day because, you know, we had all these primaries, and I was running from state to state to state, and there was no way for me to do the draft with the rest of my folks. So, so we had to schedule a time where it was a break between Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. It was like a 2.5-week break. And so I said, okay, I can take 3 hours out of that time to draft my team. And it turned out to be the day we dropped out. Now, that's not why I dropped, just for the record.
Just so you know.
I didn't drop so I could do my fantasy draft.
Oh, only a couple extra. Did you have a pet growing up?
Yes.
Do you have a pet now?
Yes.
All right, what kind?
I had a cats growing up and dog now.
So do you consider yourself a dog or a cat person?
I'm more of a dog person than a
Dog
cat person.
okay.
Yeah.
Coke or Pepsi?
I'm more of a fish person, to be honest with you. Just sort of feed them, let them alone. I mean, that's sort of where I'm sort of busy.
You're busy, yeah.
I'm a busy guy, so fish are really sort of as much as the dog is really the kid's dog, not as much.
Coke or Pepsi?
I'm a diet, caffeine-free Coke.
All right.
Because I can't drink caffeine, so I can't drink
And
Coke.
finally, music. Favorite type of music?
Pretty eclectic, but I would say probably more of a, when I was a kid kind of music, like 60s, 70s music when I was growing up. That's sort of, I like listening to old, the oldies. But I listen to, I guess if you'd say currently I'm a country fan. I listen to a lot of country music now, sort of the pop music.
All right, favorite band then of all time?
I have to, again, it's all sort of sentimental. I like lots of different bands, but the first concert I ever went to was a Billy Joel concert when I was in in college, and he just blew me away. What a great entertainer! And so I've always been sort of have a soft spot in my heart for Billy Joel. That's sort of memory. So.
That's all right. That's good.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for coming over. We really appreciate it.
pleasure.
More information, folks, real simple, ricksantorum.com.
How about that? Help us out.
There you go.